Hello and welcome to the start of my very first summerween reading vlog. I decided just last week that I wanted to try and participate in summerween this year. I actually only found out about it, I think either a few months ago or last year through Katie's channel from Katie's Reading. And then I found out that the 2025 edition was coming up in July, so I decided, why not? Let's try and see what comes of it. Now, I definitely can't read more than one book in just 1 week, so I do have one specific book that is going to be my main focus for the readathon, but just in case it doesn't work out and I end up wanting to read it at a different time, or just in the very rare instance that I actually do manage to finish this book before the readathon is over, I did put together a very small TBR of other books that I would be interested to read for this readathon. I don't think I'm gonna have books for all of the prompts, but that's fine. I'm not really trying to fulfill every single prompt. I really just want to have fun with this because I've never participated in a readathon before. I have never even tried one by myself even before I started this channel, so I just wanted to join in on the fun and see what it's like for once. So the main book that I want to try and read for this readathon is one that I hauled in my last video, and it is Strange Houses by Oketsu. This is a horror book about a house, and that's pretty much all I know about it. There's this blueprint at the beginning of the book, and apparently there's something wrong with it, and I think the story stems from there. That's really all I know about it, and I don't want to know anymore before getting into the book. I want to go into it without knowing as much as I can. I'm currently still finishing another book for a different reading vlog, and I want to focus on that throughout the day today, so I think I'm gonna try and start Strange Houses tonight. But since it's a horror book about a house and the house I'm currently living in, it's kinda creepy at night, and I'm a scaredy cat. If it turns out that I can't read this book at night, I have my alternatives here in front of me. I only have 3 other books on the CBR, so let's talk about them. So the first one is this book about Donnie Darko, the movie. I've had this on my shelves for well over 5 years, so it works for prompt number 4, which is to read a book that you've owned for over a year. And I don't think this one would take too much to get through. There's an introduction, a foreword by Jake Gyllenhaal, and an interview with Richard Kelly, the director of the movie, but other than that, it's pretty much just the script of the movie. So I think maybe it might not take me that long to get through this, especially since I've seen the movie countless times in the past. I did have a phase a few years ago of being obsessed with Donnie Darko, so I think this one can be a good option for reading it at night before bed. Another option I have is Tell No One by Harlan Coben. This is one of my friend's favorite books, and she's been telling me to read this for years, and this is actually her copy that I kept for myself after she moved. This is a thriller, and if I'm not mistaken, it's about a doctor who was celebrating his anniversary with his wife, and then they both got attacked and she was kidnapped and murdered. And then 8 years later, he gets an email that apparently could only be sent by her. I really don't know much more than that, and again, I also don't want to know much more than that. I want to go into all of these books without knowing as much as possible, except for the Donnie Darko one because it's just the script of the movie. It's also very short, so maybe I can read this in a week, although the font is quite small. So we'll see. I think this is also a good option for a book that I can read at night, and it has like a part of the sky on the cover, so I think it works for that prompt as well. And the last book that I have on this very small TBR is The Body in the Library by Agatha Christie. I bought this I think in 2014, and I started reading it and I didn't get that much into it. I think I only made it like 50 pages through, but I've been wanting to read another Agatha Christie for a while now, and lately I've been really wanting to pick up a murder mystery because I just recently finished The Residence on Netflix and I really liked it, so I'm on that murder mystery kind of kick. I think I haven't read anything by her since 2023 now. The last one I read wasn't even a full book, it was just a novella, a little play. I've been wanting to get back into her books for a while now, and this is my choice for the moment. As for the last prompt, I did say that I didn't want it to fulfill every single prompt, and here I am choosing a book for every single prompt, but that's fine because I'm not gonna read all of this. For the last prompt, I think I'm going to listen to the audiobook for The Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury. I wanted to listen to it last year for Halloween and I ended up not doing it, but it's really short. It's only 3 hours long, so I think I can listen to it while reading one of these books at the same time, and that's what I really want to try to do. Okay, I think that's it for this introduction. Like I said, I'm not gonna start Strange Houses just right away because I still want to keep reading the other book that I'm reading for a different reading vlog, and I'll try starting that one at night, and we'll see how it goes, because I get scared way too easily. Hello again. It is now Sunday, but not Sunday the 6th, it's actually Sunday the 13th of July, as in the day after the readathon ended, and this is my very first update. So, not very good I don't think. I am still reading Strange Houses by Yukitsu. I will say, if I had read this consistently over the past week when the readathon took place, I think I could have easily finished this in 3 or 4 days, which is a lot for me. I just didn't have the reading week that I thought I was going to. My reading this week was very inconsistent, very broken, and so I didn't finish it. I only have 60 pages left now, so I think I can finish it today or tomorrow, probably tomorrow. So I'm gonna extend the readathon until Monday, even though technically it's already over. But also, you know, this book is so short that I didn't feel like updating every now and then because I feel like that would be pointless. But now that I'm almost at the end, I do want to talk about it a little bit. I'm gonna try and do my best to explain like the general plot along with my thoughts and theories without spoiling anything, because I think if you want to read this book, you should go into it without knowing very much, like I did. So I'm not gonna say anything that is like major in the story, but other things I think it's okay if I mention, especially because some of them happen at the very beginning of the story. So the narrator of this book, we actually don't know his name, he just calls himself the author, and in the very first page he says that his current job is as a freelance writer and he specializes in occultism. One day an acquaintance of his contacts the author because he and his wife are about to have their first child, and so they want to buy a house where they can raise their kid. And they find a house that they really like, but then when they look at the blueprint, this guy notices that there's something weird about it, something feels off, and he knows that the author kind of dabbles in occultism and stuff like that, and so he sends him over the blueprint so he can take a look at it. But then the author is like, well, okay, I do really enjoy occultism and things like that, but I have zero architectural knowledge. I don't even know how to read a blueprint, so if you don't mind, I'm going to share this with an architect friend of mine so we can take a look at it together and try to find out what is going on. So that's what he does, and the story starts to develop from there. And things start to get weird, I would say very early on. Like nothing's really happening, but the theories that are being put out in the book, immediately I'm just like, why is that the first thing that you're thinking of? Why is that where your mind immediately went to, you know? Up until halfway through the book I had some theories, but now something has just been revealed, like towards the very end of chapter 2, which I feel like throws all of my theories into the trash except for maybe one of them. But even that, I'm not entirely sure. I know this is all gonna sound very vague, but I don't want to say anything in case someone watching this video wants to read this book. The writing is very easy to read, to be honest. It's a very quick book to get through. I feel like if you're a fast reader, you could easily read this in one sitting, especially because a lot of pages are just blueprints and there's like not even any text on them. Like this, there are a lot of pages that are just like this. So if you're a fast reader, you could easily get through this in one sitting, maybe two. And I'm actually really enjoying this format. I had never read a book like this before. The only slightly more different type of books that I've read before were with text messages and like social media posts, but nothing like that ever. And it's actually really interesting. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm so intrigued. I am so intrigued. I have no idea what's going on. I'm 60 pages away from the end and I still have no clue as to what's going on. I have theories, they have theories, but I feel like no one actually knows what is happening for sure. At least I don't. I'm very suspicious of one of the characters, and I'm not entirely sure I can trust this author because, like I said, we don't even know his name. And he's the one telling the story. And this is not something that is happening as we read along. This is something that happened years back and he's telling the reader everything that happened. So he writes all of the dialogues and everything that happened like almost as if it's in an interview format. So there's not a lot of descriptions. You don't really get much of an insight into what anyone is thinking, even him. So I don't know. I don't think I trust anyone in this book. And I think it's so interesting that the author was able to do that in such a short story. I don't necessarily think that is always a good thing because since it's kind of a mystery, I do feel like it would have benefited from expanding on the characters a little bit more and a little bit better. But so far for what it's doing, I think it does work. I just wish maybe it would have been slightly a little bit longer just so we could get a little bit more from the characters. But yeah, I don't know if I'm still gonna feel this way when I'm finished with the book, but we'll see. I also forgot to mention this in my book haul video. I think I actually started talking about this, but then I completely lost my train of thought halfway through and I just talked about something else instead. But I did mention in that video that I found out about this book like a day before I went to the book fair where I got it. And a friend of mine was also really interested in this book specifically. So she decided right then and there that we were not going to get two copies. She wanted us to both have the same copy. So I bought the book, she transferred me her share of it, and then she told me to read it first, and then she was going to read it. So we now share custody of this book, which I have never done with anyone, and I just think that's so funny, and it's actually really interesting. I asked her if she was fine with me tabbing things. I don't know if you can see it, but I've put a few tabs in this because since it's a mystery, I keep going back and forth a lot, especially to check some of the blueprints and things that I feel like are important information that has been said previously. And I don't know, maybe she doesn't want to know. That's something that I thought could be important, might be coming up when it is her turn to read, but she said it was fine. So I also think that's gonna be very interesting when she reads the book after I'm done. Something else that's bothering me a little bit in this book is that sometimes they start saying something and I think their train of thought is going in one direction, but then they say something else that completely changes the course and it throws me off so bad. And I don't know if it's done on purpose to deliberately mislead me and the reader, but it keeps making me upset. And especially in this part where I'm reading right now, like they're analyzing a different blueprint. There's a lot of blueprints throughout this book, so they're analyzing a different blueprint from the one we get at the beginning of the book, and they're trying to figure out something regarding the information that they just received. And I'm like, how can you not relate this in this blueprint to that thing in that first blueprint? Like, you have seen this before. You have theorized about this before. Why aren't you putting two and two together? Even if it's wrong, even if it's not that, why is that not one of your like top 3 theories at the moment? I feel like it should be, but no one is even mentioning it. And I don't know, they just keep talking about other things and theorizing about other things and other parts of the house, and I'm like, can we please focus on that? Because I really think the answer is there. And again, I could be wrong, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Very weird things, very strange things happening in this book. There was also a part that really kept reminding me of the Supernatural episode with the girl that lived inside the walls. I don't think that's it. I don't think that is correct at all, but every line that I read just kept taking me back to that episode, and it made me a little bit spooky. Oh, something else I would say, I don't think this book is like that spooky or that scary. I saw it labeled as a horror book, or someone said it was a horror book, but I mean, I'm getting spooked very easily, but that's just a me thing. I'm someone who gets scared and spooked very easily, especially when things are in my mind. And since there are no images in this book besides the blueprints, I just keep making everything up, and so I think that's what's spooking me the most, along with reading this book in this house, because every time I hear a noise, I'm like, oh my god, they're coming for me. I don't know who's them, but they're coming for me. But if you're someone who is not like that, if you can deal with horror things and spooky things like very easily, this is gonna be such a chill read, because really not a lot has happened. It's really just all in the imagination, and that's what's kind of doing me in that sense, because I'm a scaredy cat. So yeah, I think that's it for now. My first summer readathon was kind of a failure because it ended yesterday and I'm still not finished with the book, but that's fine. I'm just gonna keep reading, and then I'm gonna come back either later today, probably tomorrow, with my final thoughts, and then we'll see if any of the things that I was feeling and thinking throughout this book are actually correct, or if it's something else entirely. Well, I finished it. I finished it a couple days ago, and I don't love it. A lot happened towards the end, and I'm still not entirely sure how to feel about all of it. I'm really upset. I wanted to love this book, but I'm not even sure if I like it very much. I don't know, it's weird because for the most part, like the great majority of the book, I did enjoy. But then when it got around to page like 140, I think, things started to go a little bit downhill for me. But that was only 30 pages away from the book. So I don't know if it's fair to say that I don't like it. But at the same time, I do feel like it's one of those situations where the ending of the book completely ruins the whole thing for me. I don't know. I'm conflicted. When we got to the big reveal, I was like, okay, there are some weird elements going on in here, but it's fine. Let's follow along. It's still interesting. I'm still curious. And then we got to the very end. I don't like it. I don't like how this book ends because it literally just ends, but I feel like there could be so much more after that. I feel like the story could go on. I feel like there's still something that could happen after the last line in this book. I think maybe my main issue with the whole thing is that at the very beginning of the book, we get presented with this theory right off the bat. And with the way the story was developing, I thought he was going to do something else with it, but then he didn't. I will say none of my theories were correct, even though I feel like one of them, the one I felt the strongest about, would have been a lot better than what happened at the end. I also said in my previous update that we don't know what the narrator is called. He never gives us his name, but I actually think now that Oketsu is the narrator in the book. I think he's inserting himself into the story, and from what I read online, I think that's correct, but I'm still not entirely 100% sure of it. But it does seem to make more sense than the main character just not having a name, because usually when that happens in books, I feel like there's something building up to the name reveal or just something else relating to the main character, and that is not the case at all with this story. Another thing is that I keep calling the drawings in the book blueprints, but I think floor plans might be more appropriate, so I do apologize for that. But I've already said blueprints like a bajillion times in this video alone, so I can't take that back. I'm just really upset because I was so excited going into this because it is such an intriguing concept. Like I said, I have never read a book like this before, and I was so curious throughout the whole thing. But then when we got to the end, it did not pay off. It felt really flat for me. I can definitely see how so many people can love this book, but unfortunately, it just didn't work for me. I think he could have done so much more with this story. I think he could have gone in so many different directions, but he didn't. He chose to go this way, and unfortunately, very, very unfortunately, this did not work for me. And I really didn't like it very much in the end. Immediately after I finished the book, I went online to read reviews and discussions because I wanted to see if people felt the same way I did, or if maybe it's just really not something for me. But from what I read, a lot of people actually feel the same way, and a lot of them also said that Strange Pictures was a lot better, so I think I'm gonna give that one a chance. But this time around, I'm gonna go into it with very low expectations. Honestly, it was so disappointing that when I got to this part specifically that started to bother me, I wasn't even spooked by this book anymore. Up until about halfway through the book, I do think he was able to create such an eerie atmosphere with such simple language, because the writing in this book is very easy, it's very simple. It's one of the reasons why it's so fast to read, along with there being so many pictures. It is a very easy to read writing, and from what I found online, when I was reading reviews and book discussions, apparently that's one of the author's main goals. He wants his books to be easy and accessible for everyone to read, and so that's why he writes it like that. And even with that, he was able to create such an interesting and an eerie atmosphere. I was spooked. I was very spooked reading this book up until halfway through. But then when we got to the big reveal, and especially after that, it just felt silly. I wasn't spooked anymore. Nothing was scary. So I think that kind of defeats the purpose of the book a little bit, especially if it's marketed as horror or a thriller. I actually don't really know the exact label that was put out for this book, but I don't think it worked very well in the end, and I'm just very sad and disappointed that I was disappointed. So that was the one and only book that I read for Summerween, which kind of feels like a failure, but at the same time, it did get me to read a book that I bought just last month, and now that is the second book that I've read from my book fair TBR, so I'm counting that as a win. Now, in a different but kind of related topic, at the beginning of the year, I was looking for a reading journal because I wanted to give it a shot this year, and I ended up just getting one online since I couldn't find any in stores physically. I had a sticker right here before. It was a very cute ghost cat, but I think the glue wasn't very good and it just fell off. Since I wasn't reading much before this past few weeks, there isn't a lot in here yet, but I did make a few pages that I really enjoyed, and I did make the famous bookshelf page, although mine is a lot smaller than you'll probably see online. I just didn't see the point in having 2 pages full of books for me to fill when I know that I'm not gonna read all of that in a year. I think there are 21 books in here in the one that I made, and honestly that's already ambitious enough as it is. Over here I decided to put like a tracker for the books on my UK trip book haul from 2 years ago, and I have still only read 1 book from that haul, so I'm already doing a lot better on this book fair haul. As you might be able to see, I only have 2 books in here so far, which is Happy Endings and Strange Houses, and it's July, so great progress, terrific. I had originally added like a color scheme like I see most people do, 1 color for physical books, one for audio, one for ebook, and then I also added one for mixed format, because a lot of times when I listen to an audiobook, I'll also follow along either with the physical book or the ebook version. But then when I was going to fill in the little book for Strange Houses, I didn't really want to put it in green because I don't think it matches the book, because you know, it's gray and there's a lot of pink. So I just decided to scrap that, and I think I'm just gonna match the colors to the book cover because I like it better this way. And now the very best thing that I have on this journal is the Shrek Quest bingo card. I did print it out and I did put it here. It's kind of all wrinkled up, but that's fine. I was going to print out Fiona's and Donkey's heads to use as markers for this board, but I decided to wait until I started to actually tick off the squares, and considering it's July and I just now got my first square, I'm glad I decided against it. I think it was a wise decision, although it would have been really funny. Maybe I can do that in an online version? I think I might do that. I was finally able to get my very first square, which again, considering it's July, not great, but I did finally get it right here. It's the Far Far Away square, in which the objective is to discover 3 new cafes or libraries to read in. I didn't think I was going to get this one, but I actually found quite a few cafes here where we moved to. And on the last weekend of the readathon, I went to one of them and I just sat there, had some iced coffee, had a donut, read for a little bit, and it was actually really nice. I was the only one there, so it was very quiet, very easy and calm to read. And it's actually really nice because this cafe specifically already has like a little corner for you to sit and read. There's a really nice chair, and they have 2 small shelves above it with a bunch of books that you can borrow to read while you're at the cafe, and then you just put it back before you leave. I thought it was such a nice concept. I had never seen it before in a cafe, so I'm definitely going to go back a lot more. I still haven't read in the other 2 cafes that I liked the most along with this one, but I have plans to do that very soon, and I did find them, so I feel like I have earned this square. I'm actually very surprised because I thought the first squares that I was going to take off were the dye hair green, because you know I already have the groundworks done. I just need the green hair dye and rewatching all of the Shrek movies, but it was actually this one, finding a cafe to read in. Considering we're like 5 months away from the end of the year, which, yikes, I don't think I'm gonna be doing very well on this quest, but I think this first column, I think I can get all of the squares on this one because it's relatively easier, at least I think so. I'm actually very upset because I had planned on buying a Shrek shirt and wearing to the book fair that I went to, and I was also going to crochet a Shrek hat and wear it to the book fair with the shirt, but I ended up not doing it. It got too close to the day of the fair and I had neither the shirt nor the hat. Well, I think that's it for this video. I think this one is going to be a little bit on the shorter side since I only read 1 book and I actually didn't get a lot of b-roll for it as well. But I hope it was still enjoyable if you stayed all the way to the end. I do have a longer vlog in the works. I think I might be able to post it either this week or next week. So yeah, I'm gonna go now, but I hope you have a great day or a great night. I hope you had a great summerween readathon if you also participated. I hope you keep reading books you like, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye.